With 4 major 360 camera releases this past year, things are changing really, really fast. And if you're confused on what to buy right now, I totally understand. And luckily, I've been testing these cameras for a little while now, getting the Max 2 pre-launch and recently making a tutorial for the X4 Air. So I've worked with both companies, but this is a no bullshit unsponsored video because so many people ask me all the time, Connor, what is the best camera to buy? And this is what I would tell an actual friend with a completely unfiltered kind of guide to what to buy for a 360 camera in 2026. So we're gonna break this down by the categories that matter to me. I won't be covering everything, but what really stands out to me. And if I skip over something, just assume that both cameras offer something similarly or that I don't really use that feature. So getting into it, number one, we're starting with durability. This is the easiest one, and the DJI camera is out. You don't see it here because I would never buy that camera. And I know that I'm gonna catch hate for that in the comments or whatever else, but honestly, I don't really care because if you cannot replace the lenses in 2025, 2026, that's a deal breaker. If you've used the 360 camera, essentially if you scratch the lens, it's done. You can't use it anymore or you have to ship it off. It's a pain in the ass to fix that. So no, don't get the DJI 360 camera. And as far as the GoPro Max 2 goes versus the Insta360 cameras, both let you replace lenses, and GoPro is marketing that it's a fast swap lens. But honestly, you should be stopping to clean the lens and replace it properly anyway. And you could definitely do that with the Insta360's lens swap kit on the fly as well. So the speed of it doesn't really matter, and we'll just kind of call it even on that. Number 2 is the interface. Ease of use matters so much. Most people will use whatever camera is simplest to operate, and that's Insta360 hands down. But honestly, this is something I know myself and a lot of other people have told GoPro is that their user interface is just not as beginner friendly. The menus are clear, they're responsive, they don't require you to dive into deep nested settings while your friends are waiting on you. And the X5 is the fastest and most responsive interface of any of these cameras as far as like snappiness goes and pressing the settings. But that's a personal opinion, and the Max 2 is also pretty snappy, but the GoPro can be customized deeper for pro users. And personally, I love that, but I'm assuming most people don't use it that way. So I really wouldn't suggest it to most people just based on user interface. And what about real world usability? And these differences matter when you're out in the real world shooting. On Insta360 cameras, you can flip the screen while you're recording. So if it's pointing at me, you just click the screen, flips to the other direction. This is a huge deal for framing on the fly, in my opinion, especially if you're like talking to camera here, you want the same video to like still be recording, press it, flip it, and now boom, you're like pointing it in the right direction. I know this doesn't totally matter because you can reframe later, but for usability and like understanding where you're pointing the camera, it is a huge deal. Also, you can swipe around and move your framing while you're recording on the Insta360. This is huge for figuring out like lighting and angles, in my opinion, where the GoPro, you have this screen, but it essentially locks out when you're recording. And because of being able to move your framing around, I don't think that you have to connect to your phone to really see the framing. And personally, I just hate having to connect to the phone unless I absolutely have to, especially while I'm actively shooting. And like, say you're skiing or snowboarding or whatever, you don't want to have a phone plus camera out. That's just a pain in the ass. And these are the little things that make Insta360 feel like it understands the user a little bit better, and they've just gone out of their way to make things really easy. GoPro just feels like it expects you to already know how to use the camera, and that's a little bit frustrating in my opinion. For vlogging, this is my exposure philosophy on what I've observed in the most like kind of automatic settings. So the Insta360, it exposes for the person. You will look good most of the time. It's really exposing for the midtones as my kind of personal opinion on it, but the background might blow out. Full honesty, if you're using the X5 or any of the Insta360 cameras at EV Comp 0, your sky will probably blow out in the clouds. But you, personally, you're gonna look great. So yeah, and then the GoPro, it exposes for the whole scene. So the sky looks great, the whole scene looks really good, but your face might be really dark. You might not pop as much in your footage. And you know, if I'm vlogging, Not to sound conceited, but it's gonna be all about me, and I want me to look good. So the X5 definitely wins in this category. Also, on the playback on the camera, the X5 is brighter and a lot easier to see yourself. And for framing, it took me a while to think of a way to describe why I like this vertical screen more, but when I'm vlogging or using the camera, I'm usually standing like I am now, and I'm more vertical in the frame. So I can take up a lot of the screen and see myself really clearly. Where on the GoPro, I'm gonna be a lot smaller and in the middle of the frame, and you're seeing the whole scene, which is cool for like a cinematic thing, but again, for vlogging, and the X5 screen just like really lends itself to that. And same with the rest of the Insta360 cameras in all honesty. And I know you can say, Connor, this doesn't matter because you'll reframe later, but for in-person and on-camera perception, I like this a lot more, and I know beginners will too. For audio, it's not even a debate, unfortunately. Insta360's audio is miles better. It has real-world limitations in the camera, especially if the camera's really far away from you, so just try to make sure that the camera is pretty close to you. But overall, the AI voice cleanup and noise reduction is legitimately impressive as long as the camera is pretty close to you. GoPro talked a big game about all of the microphones that they have, but it's just not at the same level. And yes, this is AI cleanup or whatever you want to say, but I don't care if it's AI or not. If it sounds better, that's what I want to use. For image and color, now this is where GoPro finally feels like it's like fighting back. The Max 2 shoots 10-bit log. And I want to like just point out like what a big deal this is. So the Insta360 cameras are 8-bit, even on the new ones, and it has a flat profile setting, but it's not a true log. So it's just like a flatter profile. You have to bring it back a lot, which sucks because it is 8-bit, so you can't really push that footage as far anyway. So essentially, Insta360, just use standard color. And on the Max 2, use log and 10-bit, and it's insane. And if I'm shooting something cinematic, something where color grading just really matters, I choose the Max 2 every single time. But the Insta360 does have adaptive tone, which is relatively new with the launch of the X5, which cleverly exposes each lens differently for the front view and the back view, and it stitches it together with AI really seamlessly. It looks great for auto use scenarios and helps beginner vloggers more than color purist. And also, let's be real, you can't really push 360 footage that far anyway. So how much does that extra like little bit of color matter, especially if it takes so much effort on the back end processing, unless you're a camera nerd? Just being honest there. The next one is you can't forget low light, and the X5 wins because its processor is just insane and the AI is pretty incredible. And yes, I know it's baked, but if it looks better in camera with the least amount of effort possible, I don't give a shit. I care about it looking good with ease if I'm using an action camera. You can clean up the GoPro footage, but it just takes a lot more effort on the back end. Number 7, the battery. Simply put, the X5 battery is the best. The Max 2 is really not far behind it though. And the X4 Air is good for its weight class, but it's not quite as good. But to be totally honest, it doesn't really matter that much because I've used all of them and they all last all day on one battery. So I think you're good to go, unless you're just letting it drain all day long or running hyperlapses or time lapses or something crazy like that. But personally, that's just not how I use the camera. And one thing to remember is that in the cold, the battery does die faster. And I haven't tested this yet, but GoPro's always been kind of bad in the cold. Even though they are claiming that it is better with the Max 2, but they also claimed the same thing with the GoPro 13, and I had issues in the cold last year with that compared to an Action 5. So I'm going to assume that this is still going to suffer in the cold a little bit more. Again, I have not tested that. Just something to keep in mind. If you know me, I have to talk about water, and GoPro still does not have an underwater dive case as far as when I'm filming this, which is really embarrassing if you say this is our flagship camera and we want to compete in all aspects of the 360 camera world. It's just not there. Like it actually genuinely just pisses me off that they don't have a dive case, and they didn't have one when they launched it, especially because we know that they've been working on this for years. But that's beside the point. I know this is my personal vendetta with GoPro currently. So GoPro, please just make a dive case and make it really good. But I've also been wondering, does a dive case not work for the GoPro because of the shape of the camera? And I don't really know. And I do know that this is a small niche market though, so yeah, we'll just keep that in mind. Also, one thing I noticed is the Max 2 is a magnet for water spots, and personally I hate that. Something I'm shocked at is that the Insta360 has gotten much better with their lens coatings recently. They used to suck really bad, honestly. But when testing for the X4 Air videos, I was testing around the X4 Air, the X5, and the water spots clean up really, really well. So I'm not sure how long that coating will last on the camera because it does fade away eventually, but it's a lot better than the older models, and I am pretty impressed by that. Also, Insta360's multiple dive cases across different housings. They have like a normal one. They have one that you can like essentially get split shots with, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, dive case game, X5 is insane. For accessories, I have always been a huge GoPro fan, but both brands have magnetic mounting and a 1/4-20 screw mount. And I actually like GoPro's magnetic system more. It feels just a little bit more secure, but Insta360's pulls feel more streamlined and pack easier with the camera on them because the Insta360 is like longer. Where is this? We'll see. I'll show you guys. This is gonna sound really dumb, but because it is longer and smoother, it felt like it kind of like pulled in and out of my bags a lot easier. Whereas with the GoPro, because it sticks out a little bit wider, it felt like it just got like stuck on my stuff a little bit more. And it also feels like the lenses go out like wider with the covers with the GoPro. But that was a personal experience with a packed backpack. And I know it's like a really stupid thing to talk about, but it is worth mentioning, you know, for it fitting a little bit easier in a backpack. And my favorite new accessory is the magnetic holster for the backpack strap. I love having an easy access mount, but I hate carrying a camera around with me all the time. And this mount is pretty sweet. Just be careful with this because if you like rub it on yourself, you might make the lens a little bit dirty. And also if you're really sweaty, you don't want your sweat drops like dripping onto it. So probably just keep a lens guard on it until you're ready to use it if you're on a really strenuous hike. Also, the 2-in-1 selfie stick from Insta360 is insane. This feels really good in hand compared to the GoPro, like, I guess, competitor. This is sick because it's so small for GoPro, but I think this is the perfect companion for vlogging. And check out how long this is. This is just like a perfect kind of like size length for vlogging. And personally, I can't wait to use this during the ski season because then I can like plop it down in the snow, do a little dance, do a little voiceover, do whatever, I don't know, show a little party scene with people at a table around instead of having to like have a camera straight down with a cover on it. I can just keep it up, cover off, super into it. Yeah. I'm really psyching on this 2-in-1 selfie stick from Insta360. All right, so the app, this one is simple. Insta360's phone app is just way better because they're absolutely crushing it with their AI editing features. And seriously, the AI auto reframing is just so insanely good now. It blows my mind. And if you hate editing 360 footage as much as I do, the Insta360 workflow on a phone just makes it so easy. On the computer, the Insta360 Studio on desktop is definitely faster as well, with a few more features that I like compared to the GoPro Player. It also processes the clips faster and does batch processing much easier. And personally, I just like their interface more. But GoPro's Reframe plugin into editing software like Premiere is slightly better in my opinion, but it's just not as beginner friendly. Unfortunately, this is how I mainly edit because I'm cutting footage in with my main cameras, especially mixing them in with vlogs. Okay, so which camera should you buy? And let's start off with the Insta360 X4 Air because it's the smallest and lightest. Essentially, it's super light, it's great value, but I would say for whatever reason, the plastic on it, it feels a little bit less premium. The battery doesn't go quite as far. Yeah, it is still built well, but there's just like a rubber coating on it that I think is better on the X5 and the X4. But this is what you want for your lightest everyday 360 camera. And something I noticed is this is actually pretty much the same size as the Insta360 X3, but it is 15 grams lighter. You can barely feel that like slight difference. And I feel like people must have complained about the size up from the X3 to the X4 here. And so then Insta360 went back and was like, okay, let's make this camera smaller again, which I think is pretty cool. And I'm going to assume that they just listen to their consumers. And yeah, I think that's a cool little factor for them. All right, so let's talk Insta360 X4. And I'm sorry, Insta360, but honestly, this is my don't buy one. It's essentially the X4 Air, but bigger and actually has less features right now with the current software. What I will say is that you could probably get a used one with a really good deal right now. So if price is a factor for like $100, $200 difference, you're not gonna see a major difference between this and the X5 or the X4 Air, but personally, I would just get the X5. Okay, the Insta360 X5. Personally, I think this is the current king of 360 cameras in 2026. This is the best all-around 360 camera for most people. It has the best usability, best performance in mixed lighting with auto tone and their AI. It's the best for vlogging with their AI audio, noise reduction, voice enhancement, the best battery, the smoothest interface, best accessories ecosystem, and something I totally forgot to mention earlier is that the stability and the stitching are slightly better on the X5, in my opinion, than the Max 2. If you just want a camera that makes your life easier, get the X5. Personally, this is the camera I'll use the most, mainly for vlogging and snowboarding trips. So really quick though, what is the main difference though between the X5 and the X4 Air? So the processor is bigger in this, and that makes it essentially process all that AI and color like much faster. So you're gonna have better quality color results, and I'm going to assume that you're gonna have better quality audio from the AI getting fixed in camera as well from that processor, and you also have much better low light. So yeah, audio, low light, better color, and there's more settings in the X5 compared to the other, the X4 and the X4 Air. So that's the difference between those two. But let's get to the final one, my love-hate, the GoPro Max 2. I can't hide my bias for loving GoPro because it was my first camera, but GoPro is starting to fall behind, mainly on the software and the AI sides of things. Their sensor on this is like pretty massive. They're getting their true 8K and their color is better, but the software side of things, the AI side of things, they're just falling so far behind. And that's such a bummer and really heartbreaking for me. And yeah, that's a bummer. But with that being said, if you are a cinematic shooter who color grades and you are putting in the effort to film with more manual settings and you're mixing footage in with other cameras, this is definitely the best 360 camera for professional filmmakers. The 10-bit GoPro log is insane. You just have to take the time to make sure all your settings are right. And my advice is to use it in brighter, more consistent light instead of like kind of in like foliage or trees or like that shaded kind of like funky light. Yeah, just light it well and this is gonna get you insane results. One thing I hated at first also on the Max 2 was that I had two separate lens caps, and now I actually think that it's pretty nice. And it's because if you use single lens mode. So essentially this is pretty sick for something like if you're skiing, then you have an ultra wide point of view going forward, and then you don't have to worry about the back lens scratching if it then hits your helmet or something like that. And also I want to point out that the shape of the GoPro personally is better for POV mounts. So cinematic first person point of view is definitely better for the Max 2. But if you're a casual user, vlogger, or someone who shoots all vertical content who wants automatic good results, this is the worst 360 camera for you. So simply put, my personal setup is the X5 for daily carry and vlogging, which I will probably use 80% of the time, and the Max 2 for cinematic and film shots. That's the truth. No sponsored filter, no brand loyalty. I'm sorry. So yeah, I hope I didn't piss off too many people at GoPro or Insta360. I still love all you guys, but hopefully this was helpful for you guys, my friends on YouTube. And if this helped, please like the video, send it to a friend who's shopping around, drop a comment if you have any comments or questions, and please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.